Hello and welcome to a video on print-in-place chainmail. I've prepared these 10 by 10 sheets with a chainmail that is print in place that I've designed. These are very optimized. There are a lot of rings in a very small space. And I'm just going to talk about it and share my experiences trying to print this. I have a sample with a 0.8mm nozzle, layer height 0.2, and this took 3 hours to print. As you see, with a 0.8mm nozzle, it's not the most beautiful chainmail, let's be honest. It does increase the strength, increase the print speed, but at significant cost to the visual quality. Like, even with a lower layer height, this would never look much better than it does right now. And this one isn't even that bad. This is printed pretty decently for what I've been able to achieve with this so far. To remove this, you just peel it from the sheet. And we're going to see in a moment how this goes. But yeah, it takes a long time to print. The reason that with a 0.8mm nozzle it doesn't go much faster than 0.4 is because the nozzle, let's say that this is the nozzle, it can never really accelerate all that much. With a normal print you can sort of make big movements, the acceleration gets quite high, but with this it just jumps from ring to ring, small movements. The amount of printed material is not that high, so even with a 0.8mm nozzle it doesn't make a whole lot of difference compared to 0.4 if it's like printing like just a tiny dot of filament. Anyway, there's some sagging on the top. You can definitely see the layer lines, and on top there's just this weird blob where essentially the layer is just too small for the big nozzle to give it resolution. In comparison, I've printed this sample. This is with a 0.25mm nozzle, layer height 0.05, and it took 31 hours. So this little piece took more than a full day to print. Now, with a 0.05 layer height, which is 5 microns, this is on par with resin printing. Like your default settings with a resin printer will also be 5 microns. This is what I also use for printing miniatures on FDM, and they look just fantastic. Like, apart from the stringing and maybe like some overhang issues, you cannot really tell much the difference between a resin miniature and a FDM printed miniature if they're printed at good enough quality. As you will see, visually it's much more impressive. Like, it actually looks like proper rings now. There's no, compared to this, you don't see layer lines, you don't see like blobs and overhangings that much. We're going to have another look when it's detached from the plate, because that will be the final result, so we have to judge it by that. But you would say it's acceptable quality. There were some print failures, and one of the biggest downsides with print-in-place chainmail like this is if one of the rings fails, because there's not a whole lot of attachment to the plate, so it's very easy to fail. If it fails, it takes out a huge chunk of the chainmail. And this thing takes, remember, this thing takes 31 hours to print. So if it fails and takes out a huge chunk, you're not going to be happy. Now, this is, I would say, quite reasonable in my experience for the difficulty of printing it. This is actually turned out quite good, but we have to judge it when it's completely detached, of course. But yeah, it's not pretty, and you're going to have to fix this by hand. So the whole advantage of doing the print-in-place chainmail is you don't have to do it by hand. But if whole chunks are just ruined, there's gonna be some fixing required. Let's try to remove this one first. So basically just bend the plate, and you can sort of rip the chainmail from the plate. I don't want to tear too hard on the 0.25 because it's quite fragile. You can also already see some broke. definitely not the easiest. Let's try the other side. And the whole point of this is that it should be very lightly attached to the plate, otherwise you will never get it off without breaking the rings. And you need the plate for the adhesion to the build plate, because otherwise, if all the rings are standing on their own on the build plate, there will be so much failures that it's just not printable. And then also every ring will have its own brim, which is just a pain to remove. And bear in mind, this is the result of meticulous test printing. I've designed this print in place myself for optimized density, but also just trying to figure out how much it should be attached to the build plate, what the thickness should be. So this is not just like taken from the web. This is manually designed to print well, to have very large amount of rings, because your build plate on your FDM is not that big, right? So, and because you want to do as minimal manual work as possible, you want to print a very large sheet with many rings that your printer can handle. And the more rings are on the sheet, the less manual work you'll have to do. Now, I guess you're starting to notice that these results are going to be rough. But we'll see about that. Okay, it's now fully detached. We can throw this away. And on the first side, you will notice that a lot of rings are just falling out. So there will be a lot of cleanup required. Here are some rings. Oh, well, I was gonna say most rings are intact, but over here they are, I guess. So they do fall quite nicely. It does feel like chainmail. It looks like chainmail. Okay, there's some blobs here and there. Here's some ring that looked intact, but on further inspection, it's like not quite right. This is just a mess. The rings do look impressive, I have to say that. Like, the quality would be acceptable if this was useful. And to repair this is probably more trouble than it's worth, right? Because chainmail tends to tangle up a little bit, and like to figure out like how these rings are supposed to be attached here to this part and then like fill in all the gaps. Whew, I can only imagine like the amount of frustration that someone would have trying to do this. Then again, also, if you print individual replacement rings, they're going to look different, right? Because likely, if you print a replacement ring for this, you're gonna want to print it. Let's clean this up a little bit. Want to print it flat on the build plate so that it's the strongest, it's the cleanest. But of course, this is a slightly wider ring, but the surface finish is just different. And maybe this will stand out, I don't know. But so yeah, over here quite a sort of pristine area, I guess. But still, like the more we're handling this, the more it's sort of falling apart. The rings are falling out left and right. What looked like good pieces are just actually very badly printed. There are blobs everywhere. I think already, like, I wouldn't say half the rings have fallen out, but it kind of feels like it. I think if we're going to fully clean this up, I wouldn't be surprised if at least half the rings have failed or are severely like misprinted. For example, this one, it looked alright, but it's split here. It is attached, but just misaligned. So is this acceptable result? Not really. Like, this is not going to save massive amounts of time. If you were printing these like this and assembling them by hand, a piece like this would probably take like, I don't know, 1 to 2 hours of manual labor. If you're fast, it would be 1. If you're slow, it would take 2, right? And then you would have very strong chainmail compared to this, which is just extremely fragile, because we're going to strength test this in a moment. Let's put it aside for now, and let's clean up the desk a little bit. So here are all the broken rings. Now before we go to the 0.8, I also have a 0.8 sample that failed. And as you will see, the rings on the plate didn't properly attach, and then during printing they broke off. And this is a result I've been getting a lot, like really a lot. Like this happens at least half of the time. This is the same filament, so it's not a stringing issue. The filament on this one isn't stringing at all. So it must be a print setting issue. And probably the culprit was the set hop. My printer did have setup enabled while printing this, but I've tweaked it a little bit, and then the print came out super clean. For a long time, these have been the results I've been getting, and it's not exactly clear if every printer can even print this, if every slicer will even support you to print this. So if you're going to print in place chainmail, be prepared for a lot of these before you even get to a nicer result. Like, don't be fooled by somebody uploading on YouTube like, look at my beautiful 3D printed chainmail. This is more likely to be your result than this. I'm not kidding. Like, I have a lot of 3D printing experience, and this is not a straightforward print at all. So you will need dry filament, super dry. You will need the proper print settings. So unless they are like supplied for multiple slicers, multiple types of printers, this is going to be the result. Anyway, let's look at the pristine example. I'm going to just start removing the plate. And these rings should be much stronger because of the 0.8mm nozzle. So I hope we're not going to see as many failed rings on this. You can sort of pop them with your thumb, ring by ring. And I hope that once we have enough rings detached, it just sort of gets easier. It is quite satisfying when they pop. It does seem like they're stuck together a little bit. Maybe we can fix that. At least the columns are detached. The rows are still connected. And I don't know why. It's probably not enough margin. Although I have printed successfully with this design before. Alright, so as you can see, the rings are sort of locked together on the side, but if we like twist them a little bit, they will come loose, and then it will start acting like chainmail again. So maybe we can just bend it. No rings have fallen off so far, which is very nice. So to prevent this, I think the rings should be spaced further apart. Although that will decrease the density, so you will have less rings per square centimeter of your print. treating it quite rough right now, so this should also serve as a strength test. Like here, over here, it's quite nice. Most rings are loose. Guess we'll just go from one side to the other. All right, I think we have pretty much most rings sort of separated. And now it starts to feel like actual chainmail. And chainmail is kind of liquidy. So first impression, it's sturdy, like not a single ring is falling out. I can pull it both directions. There's a little bit of stretch in there, but it's not coming apart. So strength-wise, would this hold up as a costume? Probably. It will not be nearly as strong as a flat printed ring, of course, but I don't know, it looks quite decent. Now, I think the most important question is this visually good enough? And for me, the answer is no. If I'm making a costume, it has to be quality. What you want when you're wearing a costume is you want people to be in awe of your craftsmanship, right? So, and I don't think these rings are going to be it. If somebody's just looking close, you're going to see all these blobs and strings, and maybe when it's painted, it will get even more obvious. So yeah, I'm not very fond of how this is looking, even if from a distance it will be convincing as chainmail. I'm pretty sure about that, but for me it's just not it. For example, I have this hand assembled chainmail. Now look at the difference, it's night and day. Of course the rings are a little bit different, but visually on these there are no imperfections, like practically none. It's almost like they're metal rings. And it even has rivets. So this would be way more convincing. This, it feels nice, it's super strong, like this would be way stronger than this. When it's painted, it looks superb. I have a koi finished in this stuff and people actually think it's metal. And that's because just the surface quality is just flat. It's like, this could be a metal ring. This, on the other hand, definitely not. Like, the roughness is just way too high. And think about it. This is a very nicely printed example. Like, there's no filled rings. There are no, like, drooping layer lines or whatever. They're barely, like... Of course, there's blobs on it, but not like in a misprint kind of way. Like, the blobs are from the... like on the top where the print ended, and also on the bottom where it was like attached to the plate. So make up your own mind. I personally think this stuff is worth it, and this stuff, when you consider it's been printing for 3 hours, and you'll still have to assemble like this stuff by hand. Like if you make multiple sheets, you have to put rings in there. This is not like magic. And once you go larger than this, like if you want to print like fully sized sheets because you don't want to do a lot of work, then this is going to take ages to print. And if you have a print failure, whew, that's not going to be fun. I think it's time for the strength test. So this, let's give it all I got. Okay, this is not giving in. I think the rings are even still pretty roundish. Let's try one more time. Okay, I managed to just rip one ring. So it's very sturdy. Like this will hold up as a costume. Like for a full day in costume, no problem. Maybe on this side it's, I don't know, is it weaker? Not really. Let's see if we can stab it. So take this knife, just give it a nice stab. That's not doing anything. It's not even like breaking open the ring. So strength-wise, completely fine. This stuff, I mean, I probably don't have to strength test this because if you know anything about 3D printing, you will know that printing these rings flat, they will be extremely, extremely strong. Not a dent, like not even a scratch on this. Now when we get to the much nicer looking print in place chainmail, and I mean like the individual rings, they look nice, right? Nice geometry. If I'm gonna pull this, I think it's gonna come apart. Like, let's try. I mean, yeah, the rings are like going all over the place, snapping. So I will have to be cleaning up a lot of stuff across the floor if I continue doing this. Maybe a little strength test here with this scissor. I don't want to cut myself. Okay, well, strength-wise, it's holding up quite well to the scissors. Yeah, I did split, but I had to exert a lot of force. But when it comes to like lateral pulling, it's just brittle as hell. Maybe a 0.4 millimeter nozzle is like a good middle ground in strength, but do I really want it to be like more brittle than this? Like probably not. Like there's already, I can feel like stretching a little bit. I don't think 0.4 is going to be a good middle ground, because you're gonna be finding rings all over the place. So yeah. These are the results. Make up your own mind. I personally think this for like, if you're making one costume, just go with this. This, if you want a cheap, like fast costume, let's say it's not like a major part of your costume and you're not that bothered about the quality, it could be fine, but yeah. Hope this video was useful and have a good day.